What's going on? I am Dharma Guy. This is Dharma Time. I am. Are we going to refer to you as a co-host, or are you just visiting?
I guess I got to have a microphone in order to talk. Whatever you wish, man. This is your show.
We'll call you. We'll do it day to day. How's that?
I'm on loan.
That's right, man.
I'm on retainer.
The voice you're hearing is the dope doctor. So
just producer, man. That's what I'm doing on your show.
Sure. There you go, man.
Just the producer.
Well, no, you were so much more than a producer, man.
Well,
you're so much more.
That.
At least that's what I tell them. All right, so welcome. It is Tuesday. I don't know the date. What is it? April 10th. It's right in front of me. April 10th. It is fantastic outside. I'm one of those. I never knew this about you, but we share this in common. We are both individuals who love cloudy, overcast, rainy days. So I'm loving the weather right now.
Right.
It's normally way too hot. I prefer either really cold or overcast and rainy. So I'm very happy today in the sense that it's overcast and rainy.
Right.
However, for those of you out there driving in it, sucks for you. Pull over, listen to the show, relax, and then continue on. Anyways, let's thank some sponsors real quick. We have Journey Pure. They are fantastic. I think you and I both are doing some work with them here in the future, so stay tuned. We're going to announce some of that. But they are a fantastic treatment facility. We also have Retreat Premier Addictions Treatment Center. I can't speak today. Another great one. We just missed an opportunity not too long ago down in West Palm to visit one of their locations, but they are fantastic people as well. And then you have Orange County. Carol Burkett is she's not really all of Orange County, but I usually refer to her when I talk to Orange County because she might as well be all of Orange County. She's that good at what she does.
She's the Orange County drug czar, is how we're calling her.
Drug czar, I like that. And then of course, Now Matters More Foundation. We help vet treatment facilities as well as scholarship, some treatment when necessary. So, having said that, before I get started on today's topic and Dharma Time, I have to acknowledge a really cool Friday. Myself and Mr. Dope Doctor here, we are also on The Couch Live, which is a show that, for those of you who don't know, deals with drug and alcohol addiction and all things kind of related to that. And on Friday, we had an on-location or an on-tour show, which was really, really cool. We were at Drafts down at Westgate Resorts. We had some really cool people on there. I think it's on at the moment in our loop on Couch Live, which is every day at 12. New shows come up from 12 to 1 on Fridays. But it was a good show. I was very happy with it. We had David Siegel on, Jackie Siegel. We had Pete Crotty, who's running for commissioner. We had Renee Ruiz? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I got a different last name for her.
No, it's because she won as Renee Carnes.
Okay.
But Renee
her name
Ruiz
now is Ruiz.
Is her name,
okay.
yeah.
She was Mrs. America, which was awesome. And we had Brett from Brett TV, which you probably just heard in the promo at a time. That dude is awesome. He is your Sunday guy. Like, if I've ever met a Sunday guy in person, it would be him.
Yeah, we're going to call him Brett Sunday.
Yeah, he's like ridiculously energetic, got a great radio voice, and just Sunday. So we'll be doing some work with him, I'm sure, coming up in the future. How could you not when you meet somebody like that? Anyways, so on topic, right? There's a topic I have in mind that I don't know, based upon a lot of the things that I'm seeing in the media, a lot of things that I'm hearing, same thing with social media feeds and whatnot. I think kind of needs to be discussed, I guess, really. And I've mentioned it numerous times in various different ways, but I think today I'm going to address it directly. So it should be interesting to hear what we all have to say about it. But the topic, if you will, is acceptance. And so when I say acceptance, I'm known for saying that to people a lot of times as far as, people ask, what's the secret to happiness? Or what is Buddhism all about? Or spirituality, whatever they're asking. Oftentimes you'll hear me say, it's all about acceptance. So when I say, as somebody who doesn't practice this particular spirituality per se, Mr. Dope Doctor over there, when I say acceptance, what do you think of? What are your thoughts when you hear that?
When I hear acceptance?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, on the quick, without thinking too much about it. Because I was typing.
It's okay. You're going to hear me pour my water here in a second.
I was talking on the Facebook Live feed.
Sure.
So
it's going to sound like I'm peeing now.
You threw it at me. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you do that? Let me listen to the pee.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
That feels so much better.
I usually do this before the show, but I forgot. And oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It always sounds like peeing every time we do it, which is
That's a hell of a
fantastic.
stream, though. I got to tell you, that's
a powerful stream. Is what
yeah,
that
that's
is.
I'm 48 years old, so those days
those
of
streams are
that
gone.
are gone. Anyway,
so go ahead. Acceptance.
TMI.
Acceptance.
That's part of acceptance, actually. Just being able to accept that I'm 48 years old and I no longer have that steady, strong flow stream that I used to have. But no, it's kind of just taking a breather at the moment and not letting it. I don't take a lot of things too personal, or at least I work at it. Let me say that. My initial instinct may be to take some things personal or to get real frustrated, because I'm very, very reactive. I am a very reactive, aggressive person by nature. So, what I've practiced is take that breather and give me a few seconds, and once I let the thought process kind of kick in and the insight kick in. It can usually resolve the matter pretty quickly. Now, I may be able to joke about it and still be prepared to be aggressive or sarcastic or whatever about it. But it doesn't get deep into that personal level. So to me, acceptance is taking a step back and letting whatever it be and not having to control it. I didn't create this world. I didn't create the people in it. And therefore, I'm not in charge of this world, and I'm not in charge of the people in it. I'm just, I'm just a monkey dancing. Yep. They asked me to dance, I dance. If they asked me to sing, I sing, and that's on you.
Well, that's pretty much what acceptance is.
Well, there you go. Then I did well then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that fits right into it. So
good.
I think that, and what makes me think of acceptance, right, is I have a few kind of hot points listed here, and one of them was politics, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with that one because why not? I personally love what's happening politically at the moment, not necessarily the specifics of what's being voted on or vetoed or whatever is actually happening that way. What I think is funny that I enjoy is how people can't accept what's happening.
Right.
And let me first say, acceptance does not mean that you agree. Right? Acceptance doesn't mean that you agree.
Yeah, thanks for making that point, because that is important.
Yeah. Acceptance just means you've accepted it. Like, this is what it is. I don't necessarily like it. I don't agree with it. There's nothing I can do about it. I got to accept that this is what's going to happen, right? And first of all, we're all really great at that, by the way. Now, people don't think that they're good at that because they'll think of, for instance, politics or relationships or what have you, and they'll think to themselves, well, I can't accept that. This means I'm condoning the behavior and blah, 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 and I'm not possible. It's not possible for me to do that. You do it every day. You just don't know it.
Right.
And the example I typically go to when I'm talking about people, or talking to people, about this topic, is death. Everybody knows that we're going to die. I don't think, right off the bat, most people don't want to die at the moment, but it's a fact that we've accepted. We've accepted that it's going to happen. Nothing I can do about it. I can't control it. It's going to come when it comes, but I'm going to go on with my day. And so you just accepted the fact that it's going to take place. You don't dwell on it. It doesn't ruin your whole life. You don't stay in your room all day long, fretting about it and stuff. You kind of move on and you go out and just do what you need to do while knowing that this is going to take place. So that, in a nutshell, is acceptance. It's something we do every day that we don't know about it, right? And so the problem is we can't do it in certain things consciously. So, for instance, politics.
Boy.
I think it's hilarious to me. I view our current president, Donald Trump, I view him as like a puppet master at this point. He reminds me.
I just heard at least one of our listeners go, "He ain't my president."
Yeah.
I just heard that in my head,
and that's what I'm getting at is the fact that, you know what he reminds me of. I have so at my house I have a Jack Russell Terrier and I have a pit bull. Pit bull is just a big baby. He lays around the house, kind of doesn't really care. He doesn't have to promote himself very much
because he knows he can kill you.
Yeah, he's 70-pound pit bull. The Jack Russell, on the other hand, is way too much energy.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Jack Russell is, he will. We have a cat, right? My wife, when we got together, she had a cat, so we brought a cat in the house, and the Jack Russell feels it's his job to police the cat. So anytime the cat moves, anytime anybody gets near the cat, he could be in a dead sleep. He'll get up and run over there and like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You can't do this. Stop it!" And he'll bark. He'll try to attack. He'll just he's just nonstop, right? And sometimes we think, I know I do. I think it's funny to get him riled up sometimes. So I'll purposely walk over to the cat and start petting the cat, looking at him, and make him like he'll get out of his bed and he'll run over to where I'm at and jump up and down like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And start barking and everything else, all because I'm just petting the cat. I think it's funny to me. It's hilarious to get him riled up sometimes. That's what I see President Trump doing to a lot of people, is he'll put a tweet out there,
right,
and literally he can control half the country and make them go completely crazy and lose their mind and start like, do you believe he said this? And what's that? And then like all TV all day long is all about what he said. And I think it's funny.
They've given him so much control.
Yeah.
I don't think they know that they're giving him that kind of control.
And I think it's funny because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he says on social media or anything like that, because that's not law, people. That's not been voted on. Congress didn't agree on. It's just him spewing off the mouth. That's all it is.
What's funny, he's got all of them on Twitter now.
Yeah.
Every congressman, every senator, everybody who's somebody in politics now has a Twitter account, is now tweeting back. So all the people that were making fun of his tweets,
they're tweeting.
All tweeting.
Now, don't get me wrong. I don't agree with half the stuff he says.
Ex-CIA guys are tweeting. FBI guys are tweeting.
No, I think he's a complete dolt. You know what I mean? I think the stuff that he tweets is moronic, at best.
Some of it.
I could give my daughter...
Some of it's hilarious.
At 9 years old, I could give her a Twitter account. She could probably come up with just as good of stuff. But what I think is funny isn't necessarily the tweets that he puts out, because I couldn't care less.
Right.
What I think is funny is just the reaction that happens. And people can't just accept the fact that that's just who he is, dude. He's just a loudmouth kind of a bully. That's all he is. He's just going to run his mouth, let him be who he's going to be, but we can't. We don't accept the fact that that's just who he is. We still kind of compare it to past presidents or whatever. It's like, dude, he's not them, and that's not who was elected.
Right.
I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm not saying I did or didn't vote for him. What I am saying is, who cares? That's just who he is. That's you getting upset and not accepting that fact. Is it working? Do you think President Trump is sitting in his wherever he's at and like, oh my gosh, so and so is really unhappy at the moment, I should really stop?
Yeah, he passed his physical. A lot of you have some high blood pressure issues since he got in office. It's been over a year and people are really sick still.
All that happens when you get fired up about that is yes, your blood pressure goes up. It affects your interpersonal relationships. It affects, it affects the things around you, but it doesn't change what made you upset. The only thing that's going to make you change what made you upset is acceptance.
Right.
Just accept the fact that, you know what, this is the world. Like, for instance, myself. I'll put it out there. I don't mind. I didn't vote for him. I didn't like his behavior and things of that nature.
That's why you didn't vote for him? His behavior?
I didn't think he represented my belief system and things of that nature well.
Okay.
I think there's certain things he does I agree with, but overall, I didn't think he represented me as well as I would like for him to represent. So I didn't vote for him.
Yeah, my reasoning's worse.
Yeah.
You did good.
So
you did the right thing.
So I didn't vote for him, right? But and when it happened, I'm not gonna lie, dude. When it happened that night, I was blown away. I was like, "What the hell did I just watch?" I was flabbergasted.
I jumped out of bed.
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. What I did immediately afterwards was I refused to accept the fact that our whole country is racist, essentially. So I went out there and I started talking to other people.
Oh, that's what you thought it was?
Well, that's what it was being pegged as. That was the popular belief at the time.
That's the channel you watch. Those are the channels you watch.
Well, I digress. For me,
fake news.
Yeah, for me, I wasn't going to accept that. Yeah. So I asked around. I started meeting people who did vote for him, kind of getting their perspective a little bit. And shortly after that, I accepted it. And shortly after, I got over it.
You did.
I was like, it is what it is.
I'm a witness to that. You did.
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's see what he does. I wasn't like adamantly, against him or anything. He didn't fit within what I wanted. That's all. But for me, what I realized, and from my spiritual practice, waking up every day fretting about what he is or isn't doing and losing my mind and getting in Facebook fights with people and all this other stuff, all that's going to change is me. It's just going to change my day, which in effect is going to change everybody's day around me. And so at some point I had to realize, let me just accept it. It is what it is. This is where we're at the moment. Nothing I'm going to do about it, so let me just adapt. Let me adapt to whatever it is and go with the flow. And that's where acceptance comes into play. I think, and once again, we're all good at it. We just don't know it because we can't get out of our own belief system long enough to implement that. And there's other areas. I just picked politics because it was I was actually on a conversation on the way here because I said that I thought it was funny and that I thought he was one of the most honest people I've met. Right. And right now I guarantee there's a lot of people like, what?
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to hit on when you allow me.
Well, I think he's honest in the sense that like there's been some great liars in our past. What I mean by great liars is we didn't find out they were lying until like decades later.
Right.
If you start looking into some of the history and you realize some of the war or all of the wars we've gotten into, they were based on a lie, right? You have the Lusitania, which was sunk, that we all kind of like we blew up about that and like, oh my god,
I love the History
and
Channel.
yet we don't realize that we knew the Lusitania was going to be like. It's basically if there's a firefight going along and you send somebody to walk down the middle of it and they got shot. It's
basically our history book. Basically,
Yeah.
it starts off with Christopher Columbus. Let's get on it.
Touche.
It starts off with Christopher Columbus, Santa Claus.
Yeah.
The Easter Bunny. It kind of.
So
and then there we
in
go.
all that is basically we've had a long history of liars in politics, right?
Right.
But the difference is they tried to cover it up and they were deceitful and sometimes you didn't know about it.
Right.
He lies like a rug, right? But the difference is it's obvious that he's lying. It's like extremely obvious sometimes.
Well, the other difference is he believes it.
Touche.
I think that's a strong difference. I think.
It is a bit, but for me, what I think is most honest about it is he's just putting it out there, and he's actually I've heard tape of him saying,
Right.
"Just tell him whatever. That's what they'll believe it." He's actually said that, and he's open about that for the most part. Like the truth is what I tell you the truth is, and he puts it out there.
No, I haven't heard that, but
Yeah, I've heard
I'll
it.
take your word for it.
But it was to me, it was just that's the most honest thing people said. Like when he said, "I could shoot somebody on
I
whatever
heard that.
street,
I heard
and that would vote for me anyways."
Right. But that's kind of, I mean, come on. Here, again, that's
It's
kind of
hyperbole.
humorous. Yeah. I mean, look, what I was going to say is, look, I didn't vote for him either, but my reasons were much more superficial and much more wrong.
You don't like his hair?
No. I liked him. Actually, I liked him as a personality, a TV personality. I thought Celebrity Apprentice was very
See, I
entertaining.
never watched it.
I looked at it as from being a businessman all my life or business person owning businesses. I was always in awe of the ability to make that much money, lose that much money, and then remake it again.
Right.
I just have a lot of respect for that. Do I look at him as a moral compass? No. Do I look at him for marital advice? No. In other words, I don't put people. Here's my take on acceptance. Like with a guy like that,
Right.
I don't look to him or the presidency, for that matter, as my moral compass.
Sure.
I'm not looking to that person to show me how to be a better father or a better husband or anything like that, or a better man. I simply want the president to be a great business person and to make to be decisive, to stand by your decisions,
Right.
and to make the decisions that, very fortunately, I don't have to make.
Yeah.
I've made so many bad decisions without having that kind of pressure, much less having that kind of pressure.
Sure.
So what I was going to say is I didn't vote for the guy, but because he wasn't a woman, to be honest with you, which is a ridiculous reason to not vote for him.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when I was sitting there troubled because I didn't follow politics at that time at all.
Right.
But I did follow that year of politics, and from what I saw is he did kind of beat everybody up, and
Sure,
I was
he was a
impressed
bully.
by that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's because he was a bully. I think because he did to them what they tried to do with their words.
Right.
He just did it with words I would use rather than words they use. Because
Right.
they bully too, just
He
they
took it
use
to the
different
street,
words.
man.
They just use
Sure.
different words.
Okay, I'll go with that.
And he uses more words that we're used to, which is nicknames and stuff like that, which is
Right.
more normal, right?
Right.
But the point is that at the end of the day, I have 2 daughters, and so my final vote came down to I would like them to have, just like I feel like we all had a black president that kind of all brought up
Right.
just something within us. I thought by having a female president that would bring up something within us. And I do like Bill.
Sure.
I just like Bill. I didn't really like her as much. I
think a
like
lot of
Bill.
people like Bill.
I wanted Bill again.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like Bill, and I think they viewed Hillary as another Bill.
Yeah,
kind
but
of thing.
my acceptance came around like within an hour. Within an hour, I was
Yeah.
cool with him being president, and because I'm independent, I'm registered
Right.
independent. So I'm like, there's always a side.
Sure. Well, and so that's just one, and then obviously we're not a political show, so on to the next, aspect of acceptance, I
Yes,
guess,
sir.
if you will, is I have written here. I just put health, friends, and relationships. Right, those are the biggest ones that popped in my mind.
Okay.
When it comes to health, we're all going to have moments of illness, things of that nature. We're going to have illnesses in our families. We're going to have our own medical concerns or problems, and being upset about that and angry about that isn't going to change it. It's just going to change your day, essentially. Speaking of health, I guess, right? So an example that I love to go to a lot, it's an extreme example, of course, but you have two individuals who maybe went to war and had they both lost a leg, and you got one that comes back who is just can't accept it. He's just angry. He's upset. He's remembering all that he could do before and he can't do now, and he's just bitter about it, and he's angry that the government made him go do this, and all the people don't respect the fact that he lost. He's just pissed off, right? And I think a lot of people would agree with those people. I think there's a huge segment of the population that would sit down with that gentleman and hear his story and be like, yeah, dude, I totally get it. Like, you're right. I get it and understand it. You have a right to be pissed off. And then there's another guy who had the same atrocious injury, same everything happened. The difference is he now goes around and speaks all across America, trying to talk to people, motivate them, inspire them. He kind of changed his life around. He's helping others and all this other stuff. And so the only difference between those two people is one's accepted it and one hasn't. The one that hasn't accepted it, there's no reason, he doesn't have to. He's allowed to not accept it. But the person who did accept it, the biggest difference is he's waking up happy every day.
Right.
He's waking up thankful to live his life, and he's touching other people. He's used it as as a motivating factor, an inspirational factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what acceptance does for us. And so acceptance isn't going to change the situation. And I guarantee you, the guy who accepted the fact he lost his leg hates the fact that he lost his leg.
Right.
It doesn't mean he liked it. I'm sure he would much rather have it back. But he's realized that by not accepting it, it's not going to make it grow back. It's not going to make my life any easier. Matter of fact, it's going to make it harder. So let me just accept the fact that this is what it is. Let me move on and make it happen. And that, to me, is, once again, that goes to show why acceptance is important. What it is just allowing it to be what it is, not what you want it to be.
You can't keep walking down your path if you stay frozen in that second and try to figure out why the road is the way it is at the moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other one I have here is friends and relationships, right? So before I get to the relationship part, the friends. We all have friends that I know for me personally, I've had friends who from my previous life, when I wasn't always, practicing, spirituality and whatnot. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. Maybe I was into some legal stuff. Maybe I wasn't. Who knows? My point being, though, is I still have people I know from that period of time in my life.
Right.
And they're friends. And I let them be where they're at. I let them do what they do. Right now, I have friends who are involved in some illegal activities on a pretty much daily basis. I let them do that. I choose not to spend time with them in certain aspects, and I keep my kids away from it, mainly because I don't want my kids introduced to stuff, and I don't want anything negative to come from that, like our time together. But they're still friends. I still interact with them. I still check in on them every now and then, see how they're doing. I just accepted the fact of, hey, that's just who they are. We also probably all have that friend who's just maybe angry and bitter and negative. Maybe you're the friend of that guy who lost a leg who's just pissed off and bitter every day. And you keep thinking to yourself, it affects your day to the point where you're like, why? Let's just call him Bob. Why can't Bob get over it? Like if only Bob would do this, he'd be so much. Accept the fact that that's just where Bob is at in his life. You can't. Your inability to accept him for who he is going to cause you frustration in your own life. It's not going to make him wake up one day and be like, oh my gosh, you were totally right. No, man, he's got to walk that walk on his own. He's got to get there on his own. So essentially, you got to not let that situation bring you down, and not accepting it is all it's going to do.
I think you should at least qualify, especially when you're talking about people that are kind of living on that edge and are doing criminal behavior, because there's such a movement right now about see something, say something, that they're not the type of illegal activity may not be the kind that you need to say something.
Yeah, my friends aren't out there knocking people over the head.
That's what I'm saying. I think you should qualify with that, because there's a very sensitive...
I'm not going to say what they are doing.
No. There's just a very sensitive...
Sure.
That's a very sensitive issue right now, that if you... For instance, if your friend, when you say illegal behavior, if they were raping people... Then, and for you to do, hey, I'm just checking in on you. Hey, let's not talk about your rape. No. You're not talking about that.
Absolutely.
In other words, it's kind of criminal behavior that you're okay with.
Thankfully that I don't hang out with rapists that I know of, anyways.
I just think that we need to qualify.
Although I did watch Paternal last night, so it made me re-examine some of my friendships, because that was an interesting show. Anyways, and then of course the last one was just relationships, even, and I intend on doing a full-on relationship show one day, which I think should be interesting. But
right.
Just to touch on that a little bit is accepting them for who they are, taking them with their good and their bad, their faults. I think a lot of times, even in relationships, it's difficult for some people to find happiness within a relationship because they're so focused on what they don't like about their partner and what they think their partner should change, as opposed to just accepting that this is where they're at the moment. This is where our relationship is at. This is where they're at the moment. We got to deal with what it is. We can't focus on what we want it to be. Let's feel on where we're at now. And the thing I will say, though, is I've noticed in my own personal friendships, relationships, whatever, you get a lot more satisfaction and reciprocation, if you will, coming from a perspective of love and acceptance than you do of criticizing and judging and expecting change. You know, even in my own life, if somebody would come to me, if somebody would come to me with the love and acceptance and treat me well, I'm more apt to find ways of reciprocating that than if somebody would come to me and tell me all the things that they think I'm doing wrong.
Right.
You know, if you just come off a list and tell me everything that you think that I'm doing wrong, I'm more likely to be like, whatever. Like, I'm just go ahead and detach from you,
Right.
As opposed to like, well, let me go ahead and try to do them all right.
Right.
Because I think most of us, our tendency is, hey, you're doing all this wrong. Yeah, well, this is what you're doing wrong. You know, like that's our tendency sometimes. And so I think a lot of this comes back down to acceptance. Once again, I'm not saying it agrees. And sometimes acceptance, and especially in a relationship type situation, it comes with boundaries. You know, it's okay to set up boundaries for people. But what I'm saying is we have to learn to accept things the way they are, not as we want them to be.
That also means you can walk away.
Absolutely.
Accept the fact that you have a choice. That's part of the acceptance, right? That you have a choice.
Yep. Well, you can create. There's a phrase that you could let somebody in your heart without letting them in your home.
Because if somebody's being abusive to you and hurting you,
absolutely,
hurting your children or something like that, you shouldn't accept that behavior by staying still. Accept that that's who they are, and then you make the choice.
Exactly.
That's what you're meaning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. If there's violence or things of that nature that you're living with, somebody's horribly mistreating you. Yes, you have the choice to get out. But what happens in that situation oftentimes, they're like, well, what could I have done differently? Or is it my fault? No, that's just who that person is at the moment. Right. And even then, I'm going to say that person isn't necessarily a bad person. They've done some bad things, and they need to work on those issues. But it's not your fault. Right.
Sometimes you meet a person at the wrong time of their life, too.
Oh, yeah.
That person a year ago or a year later might be a very different individual.
I say it all the time in my own marriage, man. Had I met my wife 10 years ago, I don't think her and I would be together because I was a much different person back then.
If I would have met my wife 1 year before I met, not even that, a few months before I met her.
Yeah, I was trying to be generous on that one. But I mean, yeah, matter of fact, I just told my wife that the other day. I was like, I'm thankful I met you when I did. Because had I met you earlier, I wasn't who I needed to be, to make that happen.
She was that was a roulette wheel in my life.
Yeah,
that ball just dropped in the right. It was double zeros.
So, so on a flip side, though, staying with the same topic, right? I think it was last week or the week before. I mentioned the okay practice, and I didn't really get into too much detail on that one. So I want to take this as an opportunity to get in a little bit more detail because it has to do with acceptance.
Okay. So
the okay practice. For some of you who've been in some of my groups and whatnot, you kind of already have an idea what it is, but for those of you who don't, here it is. So I have an ex, right? I have children with somebody else. And there was a point in my time where that relationship obviously didn't go the way either one of us wanted it to go. We kind of went our separate ways. But afterwards, we had to co-parent, and so there was things said back and forth that just what happens when people separate. And there was a moment in my time though afterwards where I would argue, right? It would be, I don't know, some sort of an assessment, some sort of a statement about what happened prior. And I would feel the need to argue or correct in my mind, right? And granted, I say correct, that was my perspective. And so that's the perspective I was coming from. But I had that need to say, well, no, wait, this is, you're wrong. This and this happened, and kind of participate in that. And then there was one day where I found myself getting really upset and frustrated. Like my whole day was going fine. I had this little interaction, and it irritated me. And I remember walking away from that situation thinking, like, God, I'm like really fired up right now. Why? Like, why am I doing it? Why do I care what this other person thinks at the moment?
Right.
I'm no longer attached. It doesn't matter anymore. And so I started the okay practice. And for me personally, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. I am a confrontational individual when I need to be. I've never shied away from confrontation. I have no problem speaking my mind. I have no problem standing up for myself and things of that nature. And so for me, I viewed it as weak to say okay. I viewed it as a kind of a weakness. And so I felt the need to say something about it. And I think we all kind of have a little bit of that in us, that need to correct. Like if you hear somebody saying something that you feel is utterly, completely ridiculous or wrong, we have the need to kind of correct or whatever. And it comes out of this fear of the unknown, right? This fear of what happens if I don't correct you? What happens if I don't fix this? And so for me, it was a fear of, well, what if this person keeps thinking this? They have to know the truth. And so what I finally had to do is the okay practice. And the okay practice is simply, okay. Like if somebody, if you're being, for radio purposes, you're being a donkey, right? The real word for donkey.
Wait, you really You're afraid of saying jackass?
Actually, no. You're an asshole.
Oh, I was thinking. Donkey is a jackass, by the way.
I know.
Okay.
I was trying.
I didn't know you were saying culero. If you were saying culero, you could just say it in Spanish, bro.
But anyways, my point being is somebody says, "Hey, you're that," right? Our natural tendency is like, "No, I'm not," because this and this, right. And then you go back and forth. You're arguing why you're not. They're arguing why you are. And so, what if you just be like, "Okay, now what?" It kind of stops at that point, right? Because you're not going to defend yourself and say, "I'm not." It kind of just stops. And so for me,
you're clearly not talking about a marriage or
even in a marriage.
Have you done? Oh, really?
It works.
I've done the okay. That's
now. There's
you
a caveat
better,
to
you
that.
better say it in a non-sarcastic.
There you go.
And you better do it in a very real, genuine way.
Yes.
Because I've done okay in a sarcastic way.
No. That's not even an okay though. That's just an okay.
Well, that's why I'm saying it, Trinity.
I haven't got to that point yet.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to qualify your okay.
I learned that the hard way.
Because you could say "have a nice day" to the wrong person. It says don't tell me what.
Oh no, I had to qualify. I learned that I had to qualify it the wrong way because and I'll share that story.
I jumped the gun. Go ahead.
It's okay. It makes for good radio. But anyways, so the okay practice. What I found out was when this person would text me when I received something I didn't agree with, when I would argue, I'd never change the other person's mind, just like they never changed mine. And it would go on and on and on, and it didn't change the next time it happened. It would just continue to happen. So what I did was just, okay. And then suddenly this text kind of stopped. And I no longer got the reaction. And the biggest difference is when I walked away from the conversation, the other person's mind didn't change. Mine didn't change. But the biggest difference was I was okay. I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated. I wasn't like, do you believe this? Or I wasn't feeling any of those feelings inside. I was just like, whatever, I'm good. And so it's the okay practice. And so essentially, okay practice means if you're in an interaction with somebody, no matter what's happening, they could be completely wrong, whatever. I'm talking about dialogue and conversation stuff.
Right.
I've seen business and things of that nature. It's different. But interpersonal stuff, just be like, okay.
Yeah.
And here's where the qualifying comes in. I don't mean sarcastic.
Right.
I don't mean saying okay to quote unquote win, because like the other person wants to keep arguing. I'm going to say okay, so I put the end, I got the last word. And I also don't mean, I never thought I had to throw this one out there. Don't go out to social media to get vindication or validation either. I had a client one time, or in one of my groups, a student that I said this to, and they were proud.
Oh boy.
You know who you are. I'm not going to say names. It was actually really funny. They were really proud of themselves. They said, hey, I did your okay practice. The situation happened with my boss and stuff was going on. I was like, okay. And I walked away. And you're right. I felt really good. But then I saw on Facebook where they went later on and they were like, you believe this? Boop, boop, boop. So they went to Facebook essentially to get their validation for how they were right. And I said, no, that's not what this is about. The whole point is to not get that validation.
Right.
Just to let it go.
Let it be.
And so when you first do it, you're overcome with fear of what if and anxiety about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then you say, okay. And there's the most amazing thing happens. Nothing. Absolutely nothing happens. You let it go. The other person goes on their way. You go on your way. You feel fine. The other person, you have the exact same relationship you had with that person prior to as you do afterwards.
But you got to mean it.
Absolutely. So, and that's what I mean. It's kind of like the Fight Club thing. When he went and picked a fight with the people and said, pick a fight and lose. I want you to lose. Even if you know the person's dead wrong.
Okay.
Lose. Just be like, okay, exactly, just like that.
I must be Buddhist because I do that a lot. I say okay a lot.
I do now. I didn't before. Before, I had some spunk in me, man. I wanted to fight every single time.
My memory loss doesn't tell me what I thought before.
Yeah, right. But anyways, so the okay practice is a good one. And that kind of helps teach acceptance. Just accept the fact that that's how the other person feels. It's okay. That's just where they're at. That's their perspective. That's where they're coming from. That's what they think. That's what they feel. It has no bearing on you and how you think and feel and everything else. Let it go. And that's acceptance right there in a nutshell, kids. And acceptance to me is paramount when it comes to finding peace and happiness. That was probably one of the biggest things that helped me find peace in my life was just learning to accept it for what it is. And I'm not going to lie, it's probably one of the hardest ones I've had to do. It's very simple, but it's not easy. So you were kind of on point there, man. Which I knew you would be because of our conversations. But
right, and I think can you
yes, I can.
I know you can.
My mom told me I could put whatever I put my mind to.
I want you to speak a little bit on some of the difference between acceptance and tolerating.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of individuals out there that if they just hear like a couple seconds of this, or if they don't take the whole show in
Wait, there's people that just tune in for seconds?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my God.
So if you get the opportunity for them to tune in at the very second where you're talking about tolerating someone's behavior or tolerating someone dying in front of you or tolerating someone causing harm to themselves or other people, what's the difference between that and accepting it? And because I seriously do believe that many people hear the word acceptance and they really do hear the other thing you don't want them to really hear, which is it's completely okay that you act like that, and I'm not going to do anything about it. Whereas if you're my child and you're using substances, I may accept that you're at that point in your life, but I'm definitely not going to accept my me not doing something about it. I am going to do something about it. So am I truly accepting it? Because I'm not tolerating it at all.
That's a good question. I think, first of all, from the outside looking in, I can never tell somebody if they've accepted it or not. That's something they have to know within. And the way I would qualify that is if you're suffering from it. Suffering meaning angst, meaning this what if kind of keeps living inside of you. This frustration, this anger, this whatever you want to call it. Essentially, in Buddhism we call it suffering. That stuff in our head, that white noise that can't stop thinking about all day long, and it's affecting everything. If that's happening,
you're obsessing about it.
Obsessing, there you go. If you're obsessing over it, then you haven't accepted it. You're tolerating it, and so by accepting doesn't mean that you don't do something about it, right? Like for instance, the people who've accepted going back to the politics, even the ones who accepted it are the ones who are running for office now.
Right.
They've accepted this is who it is. They're not out there, causing a shitstorm out there, basically, but they're running. So they're doing something about it. They're speaking with their vote and things of that nature. To use the example that you gave about addiction, so if one of my kids, hopefully not, if one of my kids had the disease of addiction and they're using, I would.
Well, even if they're just using.
Okay.
Even if it's at the beginning is what I'm talking about. Okay.
All right, so even at the beginning, right, I would accept the fact that this is who they are. Mm-hmm. This is the path that they're trying to go down. Mm-hmm. But I would do something in the sense of I would try to intervene. I would try to give them education, try to let them know, like, hey, this might not be the way you want to go down. I would give them, as much love and support as I could to help them choose a different path in life. But I wouldn't go throughout my life all day, every day, obsessing over the fact that my kid's doing something I don't want them to do.
Right.
Because I've seen what that does too. I've been on both sides of that.
Right.
I've been on the side of obsessing over, what somebody may or may not be doing. Right. And all that does, once again, is it affects how you behave all day long. It affects your choices. It affects how you respond to those loved ones around you. It affects, your responses and stuff. It affects who you find attractive and don't find attractive. Like, that's your mindset, and it's all encompassing. And it is now dictating your every decision in life. Right. And so you were no longer in control. You think you're in control, but you're not. What's in control is that resentment that you have over whatever it may be. And so I think that would be the difference between tolerance and acceptance.
And also I think that if someone is using substances, acceptance really means not being in denial to me. So by not accepting it, then really what you're doing is you're putting a cover over your face and you're acting like it's not happening. In other words, if I put acceptance in the mix, I'm now accepting that my child is choosing to use substances or doing some sort of risky behavior, and therefore now we can have a discussion and conversation about it, and I can say how I'm not going to tolerate it here or there or what. In other words, I think it's vital to accept that someone's using substances or being harmful to themselves in any way in order for you not to be in denial about it, which is much worse.
Well, and another example, right? Because when you were saying that, it made me think of one of my first interactions, I guess, with acceptance, right? So this is before I got into spirituality. I was still young and angry and just kind of that guy, very aggressive. Right. And I worked at a facility. And in this facility, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, very large facility, we had a lot of bosses and things of that nature. And it was one of those types of things where we had a set of rules, a set of like routines and expectations on a daily basis. And I would go into the situation, and they would always have like what they call them service talks, where they would get up and say, okay, we need you guys to do this, this, and this for today. And they would always come up, like every few months, they would come up with this new routine that we were supposed to do. This new like expectation of like, okay, now you guys are going to, instead of using red pins, you're going to use blue pins.
Okay.
That kind of a thing, right?
Jerk-offs.
Yeah. Well, that's where the approach I took, right? They would come into our little area and they'd say, hey, guys, we're going to need you to start using, blue papers instead of yellow papers.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know what I'd really want to say about that?
What I did say. I would always be like, what? That's the dumbest idea. I had this overwhelming compulsion to let them know how dumb I thought this decision was.
Absolutely.
Because what I would also note here is no matter what decision they came up with, a few months later, they would always go back. They would always retract.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Change their mind again?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would never work.
Sounds like a corporation.
So, it was a corporation. So basically what I'm saying is here it is. It's relatively working. Hey, guys, let's go ahead and completely disrupt that. It doesn't work. Let's go back to what you're doing before, basically. So when this would happen, I felt the need to just let them know how dumb I thought the decision was, how it's not going to work, how we're going to go right back to what we're doing a few months from now, and how dumb they were for even coming in here. Like, I was that guy. I got upset. I got furious.
Right.
And when they would leave, I'd be like, are you kidding me? What idiots? And I would just be like fired up about it.
And that wasn't your job position to say that?
Correct.
Okay.
No, my job position was to say, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That was my job, right? Mm-hmm. But so that was my relationship to that situation.
Right.
My buddy, on the other hand, Terrence, if you're listening, what's up? Now he was, he hated it just as much as I did. And he thought it was just as stupid as I did.
Right.
But whenever they would come into the little area and tell us that, his reaction was always the same. Okay, all right, yeah, no problem. And they would leave. Mm-hmm. And so my interaction, they would stay. Oftentimes ended in a confrontation of some sort.
Right.
And it made it didn't make me a lot of friends. We'll say that much. It's probably why I'm not a good employee. Yep. Probably good that I started my own company, right?
That's how I left University Behavioral Center back in 92 or 3.
That's how I left this job, actually. That was actually the last job I ever had, was this one. Anyways, my point being, what would happen is when they would walk out, I wasn't going to do it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So that didn't change. So when they left, they walked out thinking, he sucks. I don't want to be around him. He's a horrible employee, blah, blah, blah. He's got a bad attitude.
Right.
I left thinking, you're an idiot. I can't believe I work for somebody like you. This is so stupid. I'm not going to do this anyways.
Right. And
fired up. That was the end result. That was my end result.
Lose-lose.
Yeah.
They lost a good employee. You lost a job.
Yeah. And so when for Terrence, when they walked away, he was still calm, cool, collected, relaxed. He wasn't going to do it, but he was good. And when they walked out thinking, why can't he be more like Terrence? And Terrence is so great. That's a great employee, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Even though he didn't do it just as much as I didn't do it. The difference was he accepted the fact that that's just, they have the right to mismanage, is what we used to call it. Mm-hmm. They have the right to mismanage. So,
that's their job position.
Yeah. So that was me. That was my first kind of interaction with acceptance. I could see it play out right in front of me.
Right.
Like, wow. Neither one of us are going to do it. Neither one of us agree with it and think it's great or whatever. The difference is I'm fired up right now and I'm mad.
Right.
You're cool. Like, you're good. And so that, to me, that's the difference of acceptance and tolerance.
You just reminded me of my childhood in my home.
Yeah.
My dad and my brother told me all the time, just say yes to her, to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what she says, just say yes, and then just do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But no, I just refused to say yes.
That's great
I refused to say okay, and I always had to argue it. And my brother and my dad never listened to her.
Sure.
But they sure looked like they did.
Yeah. Well, and that's great practice for marriage right there. Okay, yes, dear.
I still,
Absolutely.
That's not happening. I'm still learning that lesson. Apparently,
I'm going to lie.
Maybe after this show, I'll go back.
I'm going to lie and say it does happen in my house.
I have never said yes dear in my life.
I do, but in that sarcastic way. But anyways,
you've said it to me.
I have said it to you.
You say that to me all the time.
I do. But anyways, so for me, like I said, that was one of my first kind of like aha moments.
Right.
My interaction with acceptance right in front of me, and I think that is the epitome of the difference between acceptance and tolerance. Just he accepted this situation. This is what it's going to be. I don't control it. This isn't my role. This isn't my duty. This is what's going to happen. Nothing I'm going to say or do is going to change it. I don't like it, but I'm going to let it be what it is. And I'm going to continue to do my thing.
Right.
And he was much happier for it.
Not bad.
And so, for me, that's, now that I'm where I'm at in my spiritual practice, I'm in the same boat. There's a lot of stuff that happens around me, man, that I don't like and I don't care for, that I can't stand or I don't agree with.
No, for sure.
But most people around me will never know that. most people around me will think, man, like, you're cool with this? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. It is what it is. I'll respond. And I guess that's a great statement, I guess, that I like to use too, and that is respond, don't react.
Right. And well, I like how Kathy is saying pick your battles,
Yeah.
and I completely agree with that. I think you do have to pick your battles, and like you said, don't react.
Yeah.
If you have a cool-headed response that just there comes the cops. I guess someone reacted.
Somebody reacted poorly. Yeah. No, I agree, and that's actually my mother, by the way, Kathy. And yes, she told me that a lot growing up. Pick your battles, because I was that kid. I picked every battle. I never saw a battle that I didn't want to pick, and it brought a lot of trouble my way,
right,
and a lot of heartache and a lot of stress and things of that nature. But now where I'm at, older, and through the spiritual stuff, I'm thinking, whatever. It is what it is. I'll let it be.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite phrases. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you have to respond rather than react.
Mine is no worries. Kind of means the same though.
Yeah,
no worries.
That reaction is what's going to, because that reaction is typically fueled by some sort of a fear, which leads to aggression and anger, and it comes out poorly. It's never going to come out the right way, and all it does is you and I both apparently joke about the whole, it's going to start this chain of events that ends up with somebody's dog getting kicked somewhere.
Always,
right?
always. I can't believe we both came up with that dog getting kicked.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
But like I said, it all boils down to acceptance, man. It all comes down to just accept it. Let it go. Let it go.
Sometimes I don't want to, though, Trinity. I got to be honest.
We never want to.
I got to be honest. Sometimes it feels really good. Well, it's just like, that pleasure impulses per second.
Right.
Sometimes the rush just feels so good. The anger kind of feels good. Just like hyperactivity sometimes feels really good.
Okay.
So being a hyperactive kid from youth, and then being aggressive by youth, that we have in common. I think that another thing we probably have in common is that aggression actually felt really good.
Oh, yeah.
So there was an end result that kind of felt really good. So if you would have told me, no, so now after you hit him, well, didn't you feel guilty? Now, how did that feel? I said, no, it actually felt really good.
Yeah, it felt
so
great.
that counsel never worked for me because you just proved my point is what the counselor would, you just said it shouldn't feel good. Well, obviously it felt good. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you accept something, also accept that you're constantly evolving, right, Trinity? That we're constantly evolving, constantly growing.
That's the goal.
And that you're not always going to be perfect, and that's okay. And you're going to want to not accept something, but just at least accept the fact that you're doing it on purpose. That you're poking the bear on purpose, that you're instigating a situation on purpose, that you're being sarcastic on purpose. So don't cry about the reaction you get when you are calmly and dutifully doing it on purpose.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That's the person who goes into a situation and like picks a fight or something like that, and then they're the one that gets knocked out, and then they're upset that person hit them.
Right.
Well, what'd you think was going to happen?
Right.
You did that.
Right.
Which it is what it is. I'm not condoning either one of them, but man up, take your responsibility.
Well, we've all seen situations, and I had a kid in high school, and I remember who he is. If he's ever watching, that little Blanich, little punk. No. But the thing that I found punkish about this kid is because he did a lot of these things that you're talking about really well.
Right.
But it would just anger the hell out of me.
Right.
But then at the same time, he would just look at you and keep saying it, and you're like, dude, you're saying that because I can't hit you this very second, but don't ever underestimate what I feel like I'm willing to take the suspension right now. And at the end of the day, I was always willing to take the suspension. And so he really underestimated the power of a teacher is like steps away, or we're in a classroom right now. And so the Blaines out there need to understand that. And unfortunately, there's still, to me, a lot of blame. Like, did you see the video this morning that, a matter of fact, it was on Facebook last night a lot?
Okay.
The guy on the motorcycle. So both of you and I can relate to this because both of us have ridden motorcycles where somebody did something really stupid to us, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
And then you get upset, and then you kind of ride up on them, and you say something.
Yes.
Right? But both of us today, I think, in that same scenario, we would say something, but our safety would be paramount in our head, hopefully.
I would be thinking 2 steps ahead.
Okay, but this guy was where we both probably were in our youth, whereas he not only kept saying something to the driver of the car, but then he went up to the car and punched it in the window. So what do you think happened?
I've actually done that.
Me too.
I kicked, usually.
I kicked. Exactly. I did the same thing. So what do you think happened?
One of them went, he probably went down.
The car ran him off the road.
Yeah.
Ran him. So my point is that we saw it coming, but that level that he took it to, that is what led to it. Now, we can all look back and go, oh, man, what a horrible the car.
Sure.
But at some point, one of you, you have to stop.
Yeah, you got to let it go.
If you don't let it go, he could have died that day.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an extreme example of why acceptance is important.
But that's what happens every day out there.
I agree. Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. Like, that's the thing. There's so many people right now walking around just pissed off and angry over the politics stuff.
Right.
Trust me, I have a lot of my family that are just very bitter every day about this politics stuff. And to each their own, man. I mean, by all means, be unhappy, but why? When you can be happy, like, happy feels so much better than unhappy. With the politics, with friends, with relationships, with whatever. There's so many people walk around and they don't realize that you're doing it to yourself.
Right. Like, you're poking your own bear.
Yeah.
Just like that guy poked the bear of the car and got hit. You're poking your own bear and your heart's going to pop.
You went and kicked a car that can run you over.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Well, and I think that's what you're meaning that people do to themselves, right?
They do it every day.
In other words, they're not accepting something that's happening in the world that they have no control over, so they're poking their own bear and getting frustrated every day.
Exactly.
In other words, they watch TV shows that validate that opinion, so now they're more mad.
Yes.
They listen to news channels that are saying their own opinion, so now they're more mad.
Well, they hang out with friends.
They're hanging out with friends that are saying the same thing and agree, so now they're more mad.
Yes.
They're posting things and liking things. They're removing all friends that differ from them on Facebook, so now it appears that the whole world agrees with them. So now they're more mad.
Their whole world does agree with them. And they assume, though, that their whole world is the whole world.
Yeah.
And it's just simply not.
I accept you, Trinity.
I accept you, too, man.
So go ahead and give us our 3 points,
Oh, gosh,
Trinity.
we're almost done. Man. But that's why acceptance is important, basically. So I always finish with 3 tips, right? And so the 3 tips I'm going to give today for acceptance. First off, acceptance doesn't mean that you agree with it. Acceptance just means you're allowing it to be what it is, not what you want it to be. You're not trying to control it and make it fit within what you think it should be. And the reason why it's important is because that's where your peace comes from. That's where your peace and that's where your happiness comes from. You have to have that. And it comes from within. It's not the friend, the person, the neighbor, the new car, the new whatever. It's none of these other things are going to fill that void as much as your own acceptance is going to fill that void. And so the 3 tips I give, because people are like, hey, well, how do I do that? Well, for starters,
I say that to you all the time. Please just tell us how to do it.
How to do it. So, the first thing, is number 1, the okay practice is a great way to start. Practice makes perfect, right? So you do the okay practice, intentionally lose a situation that it's okay to lose, right? The world's not going to end if you lose an argument with somebody. Just, okay, you know what, you're right. I didn't look at it that way. Thank you for helping me out. And so that means not sarcastically, no nothing. You're not trying to get validation for your point and secretly still try. No, just lose. Okay. The second one I have here is stop filling in the narrative. Stop filling the narrative, what if? What if I don't correct this? What if I don't stand up? What if I don't do this? Stop filling in the rest of that narrative like you know the future, like you know what's going to happen. That's only one possible thing that could happen, and you're not psychic. The third one I have here is watch. I'm going to do some plugs here. Watch the other shows that we're doing on here, the Dharma Time. I do have a lot of different shows on there that talk about these different aspects of spirituality and kind of how to promote them. And if you're not going to watch my show, if I'm just not your cup of tea, why, please?
But are they watching now?
Yeah, I hope so. But if not mine, there's plenty of books, man. There's other spiritual things out there. There's other philosophical things out there. Whatever your cup of tea is, go find it to kind of give you some perspective on things.
Reiki?
Reiki, that too. Renee, hopefully if you're watching. But yeah, continue to grow. Continue to try to strive for that overall acceptance. That would be my 3 tips there. I don't know. Did you just hurt yourself or something?
I'm just sometimes I just make myself laugh in my head. That's all.
There you go. That's what it's about, right? Laughing. I think that's it, dude.
We got a lot of stuff coming up still. It feels like, but I guess nothing that we need to report.
Well, the things we
right?
have are behind the scenes. So
okay, yeah.
There's
So
a lot of behind the scenes.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing to report.
I don't think so.
Okay.
As always, though, you can go to nowmattersmore.org to donate. There's that one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyways,
and then what do you call it? The show after this. What's coming on?
Recovery Radio with Steve Moderano. I always mess that name up. He's a great interviewer too.
Yeah.
Steve Moderano. He's coming up next on Recovery Radio. So make sure you tune in. And in the meantime, now that you know better, be better. See ya.
plans it all out. Just makes it up as he goes along.
Human knowledge belongs to the world.